Good morning, Rabbi Tzvi. Leilu Nishmas Mimirosi Rusbas Mordechai. Rabbi Tzvi, we have some tremendous news. There is a change of venue. We've been pumping the Siyum in Deal to the point where there are way too many people that want to come. We already ran out of space in Deal. We have weather concerns. The whole thing we don't want to limit it at 1,000. We're already at 1,100 people, possibly 1,400 people will show up to the Siyum. And this guy's backyard is not going to hold more than 1,000 people. So we are moving to Bellworks. Never heard of Bellworks? The ballroom of Bellworks, where there'll be enough restrooms, enough parking, and we don't have to take golf carts to get to the place. It's going to be gewaldic. I see over here they added the Shira. Is it the Shira? The Mizamrim? I can't even see. Let's see. Does Shira choir? You can read it? Awesome. Okay, so now there are no excuses. Also, another very good thing is it's 20 minutes closer to almost everybody. 20 minutes closer to Brooklyn, to Lakewood, to Monsey. It's just closer. The only people that are going to suffer are the guys from Deal. No. We'll ask the Mechila. So, no excuses. Again, we are holding just a few days, 5 days to Ksubas. Friday is the beginning of Ksubas. So, bring your friends. Again, if you bring a friend, that friend gets a free Gemara. Art scroll. How much does the art scroll cost today? $40. And if you bring that friend, you also get a Gemara. So it's a win-win situation. I didn't chap last night. Shui Levy is here, the kid that I brought up to the front. His father is bringing him to the Siyum in New York. Why? Because he's finishing Yevamos with us. Every single daf. It's unbelievable. So, his father's a mechanech. You understand? So if the mechanech is sending his kid to the Siyum all the way from Chicago, what about you that you live in the 5 towns, or you that you live in the tri-state area, or you? You're coming, right? He's not so sure. All right. My name is Yonah Rose. I'm from Baltimore. I've been a Talmud since Beitza Yud Gimel. I've not missed a daf since Rosh Hashanah. I'm so grateful to you and the MDY family for helping me. The Torah. You're coming a couple of days. Yes, I am. I'm going to be in Baltimore, Beis Hashem, this Tuesday, in 2 days from now. It's going to be a big event. I want to introduce myself and tell you that I'm excited to meet you in person. I'm bringing my 13-year-old son, Gabi Rose, with me, who listens to the daf and the car rides to school and now to camp. Thanks so much, and see you in a few days. Rabbi Tzvi, if you're an introvert, come to the Siyum, come to Baltimore. You got to get out of your skin. You got to meet the mishpacha. Oh, Rabbi Tzvi, the one and only Yoeli Doppelt. Check this video out. I hope there's enough sound here.
If my Hasidei Umas Ha'olam employees came on a Sunday to finish this demo job. Oh wow! Look around. It's ready. Okay, buenos dias, primos. Buenos dias, mis amigos. Buenos dias a todos. All right, to work at trabajo.
Good morning, Rabbi Tzvi. All right, beautiful, beautiful. Okay, what else do we have today? This is from Yisrael Meir Cohen, all the way from Alaska. Shalom Rebbe, your MDY student from Anchorage, Alaska. Here's a picture of me doing the daf on the Alaska Railroad. Okay, you can see it all the way in the corner over there. You see it? Great, by the window. I recently got to meet some of the MDY Wycliffe Oilam, Rabbi Braggs Yeshiva, my nephew's chas in Baltimore. Here I am with my 8-year-old son, David, who enjoys listening to the shiurim whenever he can, as well as Shalom Yehuda Felder on the left. We're looking forward to the Siyum deal. Listen to this. He's coming, even though I have to run out at 8:30. Why? Because he has to make it back to Passaic for my shir and the themed Siyum cake. I give the daf weeknights as well as some Shabbos, as well as I told you when we met at Art Scroll. I couldn't do it without the great Daf Yomi Magichirim such as yourself and someone from Lakewood whom I also hope to meet one day. Yashikoyach Zorach Spira, Passaic, New Jersey. And here's a license plate from a Hatzalah member in New York. Been a listener for the last 2 years. Was driving by in the 5 towns and couldn't help but notice a DAF promoter who's also a police surgeon. It says on the bottom, police surgeon, whatever that means. Mazel tov on an upcoming siyum, anonymous. Rabbi Sai, this month's koilul is sponsored Leilu Nishmas ben Moshie by the Lock and Lebovic families, Lakewood NJ, because Torah is the best segula. Refuah Shilayma for Yevamos Aviya bas Shivra Chaya. Parents Chodesh. Then the MDY Family. Leilu Nishmas Shimshon Weiss Shimshon ben Meshulam zechus Brach. And as the zechus for our children to be kadosh, safe, healthy, happy, and know Hashem loves them. By Yossi Klein. Wow, the tzaddik Yossi Klein. Leilu Nishmas Shalom Baruch Yehuda ben Yosef Yחיאל Michal. Please put on your status. Join for Yiddy.com. All right, he made this video. Join for Yiddy. Refuah Shilayma Yisrael Yosef ben Hinda Chana Refuas Hanefesh Guf and Nishama. All right, boys, here we go. So, unfortunately, yesterday, at the tail end of the shir, the last literally 20 seconds of the shir were cut off. We actually had a recording of it, but whatever, it got lost in the post-production. So just so that if you are one of those very few people, the 10,000, not the 2,000 that got lost somewhere along the line, that are doing Yevamos from cover to cover, you don't want to miss these few words. So, we're in the middle of a sugya. Why would a woman want to get married? Great reasons. Even if this guy is as short as an ant, he has a problem, he's, how do they call it today? He is, yeah, but they use that. They say he is vertically challenged. Vertically challenged. Woman wants to be with him. She wants to get married. We saw the svar of Tav L'Mesav Tandu L'Mesav Armel. It's better to be with somebody else than living alone. And running out of time yesterday, but it's kedai to maybe focus, because in the beginning of the show we have plenty of time. Focus for a moment and say to yourself, many people think to themselves, oh wow, I could have done better. Why did I marry this person? Oh, I wish I could be divorced. I wish you'd be dead right now. And then you think to yourself, then when it actually happens, oy, 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 the tsar, wow, I should have appreciated when she was around. So why wait until they die to appreciate today? Seriously. Hakar Satoiv, Tashem. How many people out there don't have shidduchim and are suffering and they wish they could be married to anybody, anything. And you're married, you're happily married, you chose this person, so you have to focus and stop thinking about the negative, thinking about the positives, and be happy that you are happily married, almost. So, with that being said, the Gemara's final reason, 4 different reasons, even if a person has a bad job, we said, his wife would be very happy. And I was actually in the middle of these words, and that's when he got cut off. Ravashi Omar, the last line on Kuf Yud Ches Amud Beis. The Kol Sagavra, even if he has a blemish with his yichos, you know what's good about a guy like that? Hopefully, I don't know if it's true in our days with the chutzpah that we have, but a guy that has a blemish in his yichos, he's not going to be a loudmouth. He's not going to complain about the lentils that she makes him. She makes him terrible food. He knows that she's not that good of a cook, but he has a blemish with his yichos. He's going to be quiet. Tana, and this is a sad one. Bekulon mizanos. No, and if somebody asks, what, did you cut out the last words on purpose? Absolutely not. It was a complete mistake. Tana bekulon mizanos v'toilos b'baleim. These women, unfortunately, if they suffer in their marriage, then they'll go on the side and they'll be mizana. And with that we said, Hadran Allah ha'isha shalom, Hadran Allah ha'isha shalom, Hadran Allah ha'isha shalom. And now, the final parak in Masechtas Yevamos, ha'isha shahalach bala. It's the third ha'isha that we have, third parak ha'isha in the Masechta. Ha'isha shahalach bala v'tzaras l'mdinas hayam. The husband takes his new wife, leaves his old wife at home, or he could take either a different one, but just l'saber size. He goes on a trip with one of his wives. Ubo v'amru la meis balech, your husband died. Now she has a problem. She shouldn't get married and she shouldn't be misyabim. What, forever? The Gemara is going to discuss. The concern is that maybe her co-wife gave birth. If her co-wife gave birth, then she doesn't fall yibum. There's no parish of yibum. There's no mitzvah of yibum because her husband died with a child. So she has no business marrying her brother-in-law, which is Isser Karis, if there's children. What's going on now?
Mishnah sponsor from Yossi Klein.
Yosef Biliak. Yeah, you know what? There are no, that's it. Mishnah sponsors are done. So if anybody wants to sponsor the Mishnah, it's I think $1,800 for 80 Mishnah. Contact Yosef Biliak. Thank you. But if you look at the Lashon here, it says, Acheteda Shema Muberes. What should it say? Tsarasa. Maybe her tsara is pregnant. It doesn't say that. It says Muberes hi tsarasa. What does that mean? We'll say. Hoy salachamais. We don't have to be concerned that maybe in Eretz Yisrael, especially even here, it's very, very popular in the Yerushalmi circles, in the Chassidisha circles, and now in a lot of other circles, where people are getting married at a younger age. You have grandparents that are in their low 40s. So it's not so far-fetched to say that the grandmother, the mother-in-law, had another child. It's very possible. So what if the mother-in-law had a child, meaning she introduced to the world a yavam? She had one son, the son got married. The son went overseas, he's dead. Now the wife doesn't have to have yibum. Why? Because she doesn't have a brother-in-law that exists. But maybe we have to be concerned that there's another brother-in-law somewhere in the world. Maybe her mother-in-law gave birth. Yatzisa Milea. Now, if the mother-in-law went with the son-in-law, now this is a nightmare of a story. We don't understand why a son-in-law would do something like this. Maybe that's why he's dead today. Who knows? But he went on a trip with his mother-in-law, and when she left, the mother-in-law was pregnant. Now it makes sense that perhaps she actually gave birth to a boy. Now, giving birth to a girl is not going to do anything here, because a girl is not a Yevama. If she gives birth only to a boy, you see the difference between the beginning of the Mishnah and now. The beginning of the Mishnah is, if a man goes to Chutz La'aretz and he has a child in Chutz La'aretz, it doesn't matter what child it is. It could be a girl, it could be a boy. There's no yibum if he has a child. But when it comes to a mother-in-law, the only thing we're concerned about is a zachar, because we're concerned maybe she introduced to the world a yavam, and a yavam is only a male, not a female. So if she went out pregnant with chayshish, why did Yeshua say we don't have to be concerned? She went pregnant. What do you mean? Why aren't you concerned? Because what are the chances she gave birth to a boy? Rabbi Isai, what are the chances? No, not 50-50. Why less than 50-50? Miscarriages. You got to take into consideration the miscarriages. Before Corona, what was the percentage of miscarriages? Huh? I thought it was more like 15. 25 is very high. You're a doctor, you know this stuff. 25. I heard that since Corona the 25% went up 550%. I'm joking. It's the Corolla. Blame everything on Corolla. Nothing went up, I don't think. Okay, anyway. No, because of the vaccines, together with the Corona. Anyways, yeah. Yeshua, blame everything on Corona. Yeshua, says Gemara, let's just address the word he. Mahi tzarasa. What does it mean? You have to be concerned that maybe the co-wife got pregnant, but why does it say the word he? Hakam Ashmalan. Lahatzaru de chayshinon, aval tzara achriti loy chayshinon. I'm concerned about this particular co-wife, but I'm not concerned that maybe he got married to another woman over there. I believe it's the Yossi Klein says, I forgot the name, I think it's the Yossi Klein says, that's because he went with a wife. But the rules change if a man goes to Chutz La'aretz by himself. Then we have to be concerned that maybe he was makbid or whatever, like we had in the Gemara, that Chashav Tanaim, Amarayim would get married for one day. Maybe this guy also, he decided, maybe he has to get married. So rules change. But we're not concerned that the husband married another woman there. We're concerned, what's the story with the one he went with, the co-wife? Is she pregnant or not pregnant? So the halacha we said is, says the Gemara, I understand why she should not have anything to do with her yavam, the dilma ma'abra of a kapaga b'eishes achdei raisa. Because the yavam, if there's no mitzvah of yibam, then to marry a brother-in-law is isser d'oraisa kares. But why can't she get married to somebody else? Halacha cheroiv nashim. Let's go with the roiv. V'roiv nashim isabris v'yoldois. We could assume that the co-wife had a child. There's a roiv. Now, is roiv, when we go with majority, is that a svara? Is that common sense, or it's a special halacha? It's a special halacha. Without this pasuk, it says in the pasuk, "L'si achri rabim l'rois," and it says that then the pasuk achri rabim l'hatais. In other words, to assume if somebody dials a phone number, he knows most of the numbers. He knows at least 5 out of the 7. So what are the chances he's going to get the number right? Very, very few. Oh, but he has a raiv. He knows the majority. It doesn't help me. Majority. So it's not really common sense. It's a halacha d'oraisa that we go with the majority. Says the Gemara, perhaps Lema Remeiri, the famous Remeir we had over and over. Remeir is the one that says you always have to be concerned with the miut. Then what? Rashi brings a story with the kusim that guys are in all the kusim because they found a little bit of a avodah zarah by a few. They all became. I'm concerned with the minority. Leima Remeir the Chaysh the Yehuda. This is Gemara Afilu Temer Rabbana. Yazar Rabbana Basa Ruba. Ruba this come on. So don't worry about it. We're not going into deep sugyas here. We're just flying through it on the surface, passing by, just to remind us some of these very interesting halachas. And that is when we use the majority as a rule, that's a majority that's in front of us, that we could see, not a general majority of the world. You can't take the whole world into account when we're doing a raiv. Kigoin Teisha Chanuyas V'Sanhedrin. The famous halacha, I love this halacha of Teisha Chanuyas. A guy finds a piece of meat, steak, a nice juicy steak. There's no stempel on it, there's no hechsher on it whatsoever. However, on this, strip of stores, there's 9 kosher stores, one of them is not kosher. So now, because the 9 stores are in front of us, they're here, we could see them, we're going to say the majority of the stores are kosher, the meat is probably kosher. Right? Go tell it to some guy today. Go, you can eat this meat. Majority of the stores are kosher. You're going to say, crazy? What if Chas Shalom, it's I don't know what. Some echsher he doesn't like. The Sanhedrin of the 23, you have to go by the majority. You have to have 12 against 11. It's because the Sanhedrin, they're in front of you. Avaruba, the lesser come on. Maybe Rabbanon don't go by the roiv. They don't use the majority when it's not in front of them. So Gemara tries to slug that up. Again, a halacha that we mentioned number of times throughout the Masechta. The Katan Ktana, right? We have a minor yavam. Could a minor yavam perform yibum? He's not bar mitzvah yet. The Ruba the Lesikamani, Vazar Rabbanon Basa Ruba. What are we talking about? If you're a minor, you shouldn't do chalitza, you shouldn't do yibum. Divrei Meir. Why? It's understandable why a kid shouldn't perform chalitza, because it says ish ksiba parsha. Both of them have to be g'daylim. When it comes to chalitza, you have to be an adult. But what about a katan? What about yibum? Why can't the 9-year-old perform yibum? Biyasai biya. So why shouldn't it be yibum? What are the chances that a child, when he grows up, is going to turn out to be a saris? Very, very few in the world. Right? It's a very small percentage. Yet, Rabbi Meir is concerned about the minority, we said, the very small percentage. So, Omar, that's Rabbi Meir. And the same concern is with the Ktana. She's going to grow up. She's going to be one of these kids that can't have children. She has all these simanim. Her voice is different. Her this, her whole body, everything. She can't have children. But that's a minority. And Remeir is concerned. It turns out, since Eilinus is not in the Parsha of Yibum, right? Eilinus can't be a Yevama. So if she can't be a Yevama, she's with her brother-in-law illegally. And that's what let her get older. Let's see whether or not she could have children. If he's a Saras, if she's Eilinus, let's see. Rabbanan, why do they argue on Remeir? Rabbanan Savri, Zil Basa Ruba Diktanim. Take the majority of the world. I bet you it's 1 out of 100. I don't know, maybe even less. Who knows? But it's certainly right. 51% of children grow up and they're not Sarisim, they're not Eilinus. But the problem is, well, what's the problem? That they're taking into account all the kids of the world. We just said it has to be, in order to use the majority has to be in front of you. Like the 9 stores are in front of you. I see them. You don't say all the stores in the world, because if you say all the stores in the world, most stores in the world are treif. So I'm saying all the stores that are in front of me right now. But you see, not like that. You see that Rabbanan take into account all the kids of the world. So therefore, let's go back. Let's take it back. It's in fact Rabbi Meir who's chayshish for the miyot. Says the Gemara, but if you're going to tell me it goes according to Rabbi Meir. How do I explain the rest? Oh, if she has a mother-in-law, I'm not concerned that maybe the mother-in-law gave birth to a boy and the boy is a yavam. Most women give birth, get pregnant, give birth. Okay, there's a small percentage that miscarry. And now once you take the ones that have viable births, 50-50, I actually saw once, I have no idea if this is accurate, throw it out there, that for every 1,000 boys, there's 1,003 girls in the world. Something consistent like that, besides in Afghanistan. Anybody ever hear that? No, okay, fine. Maybe it was on Purim I read it. I never know it. What? China. No, that's because they manipulate it in China. That's something else. You can't, if you're manipulating, you're manipulating. That's something, that doesn't count. Talking about natural. Everything okay over there? Yeah. Okay, good. Ask the Gemara, how could it be Remeir if Remeir is concerned about the minority? So you're right, a male is a minority. Yeah? The white males. Males are minority. Why? Because you have 50-50, and you have also have to take into account the fact that a woman could miscarry. But Remeir doesn't care about minority. He's chayshish, he's concerned about it. So maybe the mother-in-law gave birth to Yavam, and if she gave birth to Yavam, I have no idea if she did or she did it. If she did, how could this woman go ahead and get married? Maybe there's a Yavam somewhere in the world. Says the Gemara, Kivin Dilma, Kivin this chaskel shuk, loy chayish. Once there's a chazaka, we establish that, how do you say chazaka in English? There's a chazaka, that previously she was, when they left to Chutz La'aretz, she didn't have a Yavam in the world. So this is a chazaka. This woman is a predetermined, or whatever they call chazaka. It's a pre-something chazaka. Chazaka is the best word. This is a chazaka in this woman that she doesn't have to be Mesiyavam. A presumption. Okay. Who? No. But a presumption, fine. Maybe. Dilma, given the... No.
Legal presumption.
That's what they say? There's a legal presumption that she doesn't have to do Yibum. And now you want to say that perhaps something happened to undo that status quo. I like status, something to do with something with those words, status quo. Like there's a certain status now. She's not Chayiv Yibum, you want to make her Chayiv Yibum. So we say no. Let her take the original status that she had, which she wasn't Chayiv. Says the Gemara, Reisha, this Chazik Yibum? The Reisha. Where what? That she was chayiv yibum. Why? Because when her husband went with the co-wife on a trip, if her husband would drop it that minute, she would be chayiv yibum. So nothing's changed. Again, so we have the same status going through. In the Reisha, she's chayiv yibum. Sefer, she's not chayiv yibum. Omer Rachman Rabba Baravua, Reisha, the Isser Kares Chashashu. Says Rav Nachman, when we're talking about an Isser Eshes Ach, so we're concerned that maybe the Tzara gave birth. Seifa, the Isser Lav. What's the Seifa? That we're concerned that she's going to go marry somebody when she shouldn't marry somebody when she has to be Misyabim. What is that? That's why we're not concerned. It makes no sense what you're saying. If you look at Rashi, the bottom Rashi explains it beautifully. When I have a geder midrabanan, I have a fence that Chacham said, don't go past this fence because you might do an Isser. So it makes sense to say, look, this is a very big Isser. That's why Chacham were very concerned about it. This is less of an Isser. Chacham weren't so concerned, so they didn't make a geder. But when it comes to Isser Deraisa, when Hashem says in the Torah, don't do this, don't do this, how can I say Hashem says this Isser is more than the other Isser? It's in the Torah. It doesn't make a difference if this one has karas and this one doesn't have karas. Yeah? It happened here in Chicago. My friend told me, he was very into Kiru over here, Yehuda Freilich, he had an organization. Told me it happened. I said the story a number of times. I mean, it's funny, it's very sad. You know, I laughed when I heard it, but it's very sad. He was telling the guys that they should accept upon themselves like one thing, put on tefillin every day, something every day. So a guy accepted upon himself, he's going to go to the mikveh every day. And then he gets a call from this is the mikveh here on Tui. He says, one of your guys is coming here on Shabbos in a car. Every Shabbos he pulls up in a car. He accepted upon himself a mikveh, but he shows up in a car. But it's not a joke. You know why it's not a joke? Because I heard that there are people in Eretz Yisrael that they go to the mikveh on Shabbos, women, not to be over Isser Karas of Nida, but driving car. There's no such thing by a kadosh Baruch Hu. This Isser and this Isser, they're equal. There's no Adarabah. This is skila. This is Karas. In terms of Yisurim, it's even worse Chil Shabbos. But you don't make those kind of cheshbainas. We shouldn't make those kind of cheshbainas. They do. Whatever it is, it is. Says the Gemara, Elam Rava, therefore Rava doesn't like that nafkamina, that this is a smaller Isser, it's only a lav, that's why we're not choishish. There's a bigger Isser, it's a kares. Says Rava, Reisha, chazaka liibum, veruba l'shuk. Oh, take a look at this for a second, if you can see it. Let's see. Oh, okay. Oh, I changed some of the colors later on. Fine. It goes like this. Basically, if you have a scale, you have Roiv. Roiv, women give birth to a viable baby, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so you have Roiv. That is more powerful than Chazaka. Chazaka, the status quo of the woman that she should be, she's a potential Yevama, because when her husband left with the co-wife, and her husband didn't have children, and if her husband got killed right then and there on the spot, she would be chayiv yibum, so that chazaka should take her into the future. That's not as powerful as a roiv. So if you have roiv on the one hand, and a chazaka on the other hand, what's going to win? What's going to bring the scale down? The roiv is going to be more powerful. Step number 2 is, however, if you add another, because we're dealing with 2 principles, and now we're introducing a 3rd principle. If you add the principle of miut, that there's no vlad here, that together with the chazaka is going to equal 50-50. You see, without the black box, the roiv is going to win. But now I'm going to add a little bit of miut. I'm going to add the miut part, the miut. I'm going to add the miut to the chazaka. The miut and the chazaka, they make the roiv equal with them, so it's 50-50. What do you do when you have 50-50? So you have a woman that can't do Yibum, because maybe she is not Chayiv Yibum, but she can't get married. She doesn't do anything. Status quo, 50-50. Let's see it inside. Reisha, when, what? Oh, sponsored by Moshie Horn in honor of Rabbi Tzvi Medetsky, the worst basketball Rebbe that ever lived. Sponsored by Nisano, Latzlocha Ruchni and Gashmi from Murad Nakash. I'll get a bit more of a... Now I'll get phone calls. Sponsored by Nisano, Latzlocha Ruchni and Gashmi from Murad Nakash for introducing me to MDY. Nah, it's not. It says here he's the best. The best. I don't know why he decided the best. I heard he's very good, actually. Very good. He was back in the day. Remember back when we used to play in camp and he scored 50 on Romamu and this. Oh, he was from Roma, sorry. Yeah. What were the names of the camps there? Rayim and okay. Yeah. Sorry. Here we go. Chazaka is not as strong. If you go back to this picture over here. Chazaka is not as strong as right. Now take the miut, because there are some women that miscarry. You add the black box of miut to the chazaka. Now you have a scale that both sides weigh the same. So what do? Great. Seifa. When it comes to the story of the mother-in-law, the Reisha is the co-wife, the Seifa is the mother-in-law. And we're concerned that perhaps the mother-in-law gave birth to a boy, and if she gave birth to a boy, her husband, the Yevamos is Chayiv B'Yibum now. Chazaka l'shuk v'ruba l'shuk. Here. Now you take the Chazak and the Roiv, you put it on one side of the scale. Before, they were enemies. The Chazak and the Roiv were opposing principles. Now they're together, they're on the same team. So you have a very, very strong team. You have a Chazaka that when her mother-in-law left, she wasn't pregnant, she didn't have a Yavam in the world, so she has a Chazaka. Her status quo is no Yibum. You also have the Roiv. What's the Roiv now? A different Roiv. That most women don't give birth to boys. Because if you take into consideration the miscarriages, then you don't have a Zachar. So now you have a Chazaka and Roiv on one side of the scale, and a little tiny Miyut that maybe she gave birth to a Zachar against a Chazaka and a Roiv. So we're going to call that a Miyut Shebemiyut, because it's a nothing of a nothing compared to the other side of the scale. It's a little sliver, it's a 1 pound on one side of the scale compared to 100 pounds on the other side. So we'll call it a Miyut Shebemiyut. Even Meir, you hear this? What's going on here? Even Meir, who throughout Shas is very concerned about the Miyut, I have to be concerned that this boy might grow up to be a Saris, or this girl might be an... Over here, it's so far-fetched that's not even it's considered a Miyut Shebemiyut. Meir is not chayshish to it. Says the Gemara, so the husband and the co-wife go to Chutz La'aretz, and they hear that the husband died. Nothing happens to she's stuck. Says the Gemara, La'ilam. What? She can never get married? So do chalitza to her. Let her get married. She for herself, she always has to wait 3 months. L'chaverta, why does she have to wait 3 months? Like we always said throughout the Masechta, we have to know who the father is, right? Like that story with the Rabbi Emanuel Feldman from Atlanta. I think I said, I'll say it again. Why not? He's doing a divorce in Atlanta, and he tells the woman, by the way, now that you're divorced, you have to wait 3 months, because that's the halacha. So she went crazy. She goes, what about my husband? He has to wait 3 months? She goes, no, he can get married right now. Oh, you charedim. You make up these rules. You're anti-male chauvinist. She went crazy. She says, listen, I understand. Could your husband get pregnant now? No. Could you? Yeah. So we need to know who the father is. You understand? Oh, that makes so much sense. Shalom Aleichem. Now I understand. Okay. So she has to wait 3 months for herself. But l'chaverta tisha. Now this is a very serious thing. You cannot perform chalitza during the 9 months that we're waiting for the co-wife to get. From the moment we hear that the husband died, wait 9 months. Why? Because the co-wife might give birth. And if you did chalitza during those 9 months, it's pasal chalitza. It doesn't work. And then after the 9 months, then you perform chalitza. Reb Chanina Amar, you do chalitza, and you say, look, if there's a yavam somewhere in the world, here's the chalitza. And if not, not. I'm saying if they had a kid, then you don't need chalitza. If there's no kid, so the chalitza. Fine. Reb Chanina Amar, la'atzma shleisha l'chaver l'olam. Reb Chanina is very mean over here. It's not mean, but it's a very sad halacha that comes out over here. Comes out that this woman can never get married forever. And it seemed like, seemingly in the Rishonim ask, they're all over this. Like, it doesn't make sense, but that's what he passes. Then what? Let her just do chalitza. No, she can't do chalitza. What's the big deal? Let her remove the guy's shoe. No. The concern is that what if this chalitza was in vain? There's no reason to do the chalitza. There's a kid somewhere in the world. So now she's not a chalutza. A chalutza and a grusha are the same, right? A kohen doesn't marry a grusha, he cannot marry a chalutza. But she's not a chalutza. Why is she not a chalutza? Yes, she removed the shoe, but it was nothing. It was a fake act. Why? Because there's a kid somewhere in the world. So now you have to go and go on the microphone like in Meir Sharim. Hoisha, Chana, Yevamos, Gittel, Shmetzel is not a chalutza. Go around the whole neighborhood screaming. Okay, so do it. So they'll scream. There's going to be a guy that went out of town, he didn't hear the Ram Kolim. Va'amri, and the problem is, he's going to come back and see that she's married to a kohen. So when we learned it last time, we learned it this time, the Ritva asked the question, so don't get married to a kohen, whatever. The problem is, I think he says this, if I'm not mistaken, that we're concerned that she's going to do feilish shtick behind the table. She is going to go marry. Without that, she knows that she's not a chalutza, so she'll go get married, something like that. Tanan, nitan li ben b'medinas hayam. We learned yesterday, she claims that she had a son. And if she has a son, what does that mean? She doesn't have to do yibum. And then she says, V'amra meiz b'ni, v'achach meiz bali. But she says, but my son died first. And if my son died first, now I'm chayiv yibum. So that's not a problem. Why? Because when she left, she was chayiv yibum. No son around. Now she comes along and she created a son, and then she got rid of the son. So nothing happened. Without her testimony, she didn't have a son, and she's chayiv yibum. So now with her testimony, she had a son, and the son died. Not a big deal. We believe her that he was alive and now he's dead, but nothing changed. However, if she changes the facts, she says, Meiz Bali, V'achkach B'ni'i. Now she wants to say that she's parted from Yibum because she has a son somewhere who died, and in Menes, now she's not believed. However, we do have to be concerned about her words. Therefore, she should perform chalitza. Says the Gemara, according to you, they were concerned about kahuna and cruz. Why could she do chalitza? Maybe they'll testify and say, yes, she had a kid. Now we're going to have to go around with the speakers in the street, and somebody's not going to be there. And then they're going to say, oh, she got married to Amar Papa, Begrusha. There's no concern because she's a grush to begin with and she can't marry. It's a valid concern, but we're talking about somebody who's already divorced who can't marry a kohen anyway. Says the Gemara. Another pshat. Her whole testimony is that nobody saw us at all. It's impossible. We're in a cave. Me, my husband, and the child. Her husband died. You can't have an aide that comes and says, well, so-and-so died first. The husband died first. The son. Nobody can testify because it was in a cave, in a closed room. Says the Mishnah, sponsored by Yossi Klein.
No, he says the guy has one more day.
Ah, you had a guy? Leilu Nishmas, Remeir Yחיאל ben Rabbi Avrom, Zechroina Levracha, and Shomah should have an Aliyah. Shtei Yevamos. Marty's past your bedtime? Okay, good luck over there. It says the Eli Mishnah, Shtei Yevamos, we had two brothers married to two women. Let's see if we have the thing. Oh, okay. Two Yevamos married to two women married to two brothers, right? The two Baldwin brothers. We're slowing down with them. One more day, 2 more days, it's going to be sad. Shtei Yevamos, Zu Ameres Meis Bali. Now, Rachel says, my husband died. And if my husband died, that means I'm chayiv yibum. But there's another woman here, the 5-towner. She says, V'zu Ameres Meis Bali. Now, according to the 5-towner, she doesn't even have a husband. So if she doesn't have a husband, then Rachel on the right doesn't have to do Yibum. She only does Yibum if there's a Yavam alive, but the Yavam is dead. But that's only based on a woman's testimony, and a woman can only testify about herself. She can't testify about somebody else. Zu asura mipnei bal shazu, v'zu asura mipnei bal shazu. We cannot, the 5-towner cannot rely on the testimony of Rachel that her husband is dead. So according to Rachel, it doesn't matter if that her husband is dead or alive. 5-towner has the Yavam somewhere in the world until you can bring witnesses that he's dead. Rachel cannot rely on the 5-towner that the 5-towner's husband is dead, and therefore Rachel has a Yavam somewhere in the world, and she cannot get married. Lezu Eidim. What happens if Rachel has 2 guys? Yossi Klein with a Streimel and some other guy. They testify that Reuben went bye-bye. So if Reuben went bye-bye, guess what? Is that good for Rachel or bad for Rachel? Is that good for 5-town or bad for 5-town? That's excellent for the 5-towner. Because according to the Eidim, the 5-towner doesn't have a Yavam. He's dead. But according to Rachel, it's bad for her. Because yes, her husband died. We would believe her anyways. We don't need Eidim that her husband died. The problem is that there's a Yavam in the world. His name is Shimon. Who says Shimon is dead? The only one that says Shimon is dead is the 5-towner. We can't trust the 5-towner when it comes to Rachel. Rachel who has Eidim, she cannot get married. The one who doesn't have Eidim is counterintuitive. The 5-towner who doesn't have Eidim, she's allowed to get married to everybody because the Eidim from the other lady are good for her. Let's say Rachel has 2 children. You like the children I put there? You didn't even notice. One of them is a potato head. She has kids. So if she has kids, she's not chayving yibum. But the other one is chayving yibum. Now listen to this halacha. This is incredible. If the 2 women, they went with the yavam. They found the yavam somewhere. There was other brothers around. They got married. Listen what happened there. They had Yibum. The 5-towner had Yibum from Dan. The Rachel had another Baldwin brother, Levi. Remember Levi? He's not in here, but he's somewhere. But listen what happens. The 2 Yevamim now go bye-bye. The question is, do we have to be concerned about Reuven and Shimon? Right? Each woman couldn't get married to the world because there's a Reuven in the world and there's a Shimon in the world, and there's nobody testified that these Yevamim, we said when it comes to Yibum, you can't trust a woman. We could trust a woman for her to get married, for she's an aguna, but not to say that somebody's potter. Okay. You hear or you don't hear the Shaila? I don't have it. It's not here on this chart. I think this is the last one. Yeah. Ran out of time. Again, pretend that there's 2 more brothers. And there was Yibum with those 2 brothers. And those 2 brothers, now there's 4 dead brothers. But just because they did Yibum, why does it get rid of the original problem that we had? We said Rachel cannot marry anybody in the world because maybe 5-town's husband is still alive. And then she finds a Yavam somewhere, so she's miyabim him. And then the Yavam dies. But maybe 5-town's husband is still alive. How could she marry into the world? Her Yavam that she married died without children. So how could she marry into the world? So therefore, the Tanna Kamma says, Nisiyabmu, if they had Yibum, Umesu Yavam, and the Yavam died, as soon as they know, they can't marry anybody else. But once, Rabbi Lazar argues, he says, once you allow them to marry Levi and Yehuda, Hutrul Chaladam, they're allowed to marry the entire world. Let's just do 1 little piece here, 3 more lines. Let's just do 1 little piece here, 3 more lines. Let's just do 1 little piece here, 3 more lines. Let's just do 1 little piece here, 3 more lines. Let's just do 1 little piece here, 3 more lines. Let's just do 1 little piece here, 3 more lines. Let's just do 1 little piece here, 3 more lines. Let's just do 1 little piece here, 3 more lines. Let's just do 1 little piece here, 3 more lines. Let's just do 1 little piece here, 3 more lines. Let's just do 1 little piece here, 3 more lines. Let's just do 1 little piece here, 3 more lines. Let's just do 1 little piece here, 3 more lines. Let's just do 1 little piece here, 3 more lines. Let's just do 1 little piece here, 3 more lines. Let's just do 1 little piece here, 3 more lines. Let's just do 1 little piece here, 3 more lines. Let's just do 1 little piece here, 3 more lines. Let's just do 1 lit Interesting. I don't know where that stopped. Tana. Lezu edim ubanim, lezu loy edim v'loy banim. One woman has edim that her husband died, but she also has children. So if she has children, she's parted from yibum. What about the other woman? She doesn't have edim and she doesn't have children. But guess what? She doesn't need edim. Her yavam, her supposed yavam, is dead based on the testimony of two edim. So therefore, both of these women don't have yibum. Very simple. There's no big chiddush here. In fact, Taisus asks, what's going on here? Where are the chidushim here? Tana lezu edim u'banu lezu lo edim v'lo yibanim shtei mutaris. Nisyabmu meisem yivam. If they had yibum and they died without children, asurli nase. And on that, Rabbi Lazar also says, hayavu yivamim hutru l'chol adam. They are mutter to the entire world based on the marriage to the yivamim. Rabbi Sai, have a wonderful day.